Welcome back. So the Chief Justice, flanked by the Judicial Service Commission, have condemned the Judicial Ombudsman in the BBI, as we just heard from the Chief Justice a few moments ago. Well, the Chief Justice proceeds on terminal leave beginning Monday ahead of his retirement in January next year. Let's speak more about how Maraga's legacy is and how his succession battle is likely to shape up. We'll be speaking live to Advocate Kakai Kissinger. He is joining us live from our City Centre studios. Many thanks for your time here, Kissinger. So let's begin first of all with the Chief Justice's statement, the statement this morning, along with the Judicial Service Commission asking the BBI Secretariat to drop the proposal of the Judiciary Ombudsman, saying that this poses a direct conflict and duplication of roles between the Ombudsman and the Judicial Service Commission. Your thoughts on this?
Thank you for having me. And I find myself in a very interesting position to answer that very first question you're asking, because I happen to be currently sitting at the BBI National Secretariat, and at the same time I worked in that institution, the very one called the Judiciary. And so I think that question for me to answer is very simple, is that the reasoning behind the establishment of the Ombudsman office or Ombudsman person was based on the fact that there has to be checks and balances within the institutions. Of course, we have checks and balances within the Judiciary, checks and balances within the Executive, and also the National Assembly. So the question then is that once that has been established, then that person, in terms of the office of the Ombudsman, will provide more checks and balances within the Judiciary itself. So as of now, that is what the bill is. I think you are aware that by yesterday, the bill was taken to IEBC. So as it is right now, I do not think that any change might take place or might be affected on the establishment of that office. That office has been established under the new BBI.
But what would you say with regard to claims of undermining the independence of the judiciary? Should we have the office of the Ombudsman as proposed in the BBI? Because from this statement, the JSC and the Chief Justice are not opposed to the office of the Ombudsman. They in fact say it should be strengthened, just that the Ombudsman should be appointed by the Judicial Service Commission with a mandate of forwarding those reports to the Judicial Service Commission for determination.
I think what we need to understand is the bigger goal is that, yes, the office is being established. And once the office is being established, when the new regulations are put in place, because that office will be established under a legal framework, it's now to ensure that there are no conflicts between the Judicial Service Commission and the ombudsperson. But the idea, I think the judiciary accepts, is a good idea. So the whole idea is to ensure that once that office is in place, there shouldn't be any conflict. From where I sit, if the law is well structured and anchored into proper law, then there will be no issues of conflict between the Ombudsman, there will be no conflict of interest between the JSC, but it will be supplementary in nature in terms of assisting the judiciary achieve its objectives, checking the judiciary. And remember, the ombudsperson is going to be doing the reports to the National Assembly and also going to be doing the reports to the judiciary itself on an annual basis. So this is a good thing if the law that comes into place is well prepared. And remember that even the appointment of the judicial ombudsperson is going to be appointed at the Senate level. And that person who is going to be the ombudsman must have at least 20 years in terms of experience, just the same as the Supreme Court judge qualification. So I think it's a good thing, but I think the judiciary should be aware and be concerned what is the law that is going to come into place to ensure that this office is put in place. And that law must be so thorough and very well negotiated to ensure there's no conflict at all.
Right. Even as that debate continues, the Chief Justice proceeds on terminal leave today, pending his retirement on the 12th of January. How would you describe Maraga's legacy, the state of the judiciary from before, when he found it in 2016, and the state of judiciary today as he leaves office?
Thank you very much. I think the CJ came into office in 2016. And we need to ask ourselves, what did he promise Kenyans? What was he signing up himself to? And the three things that come into my mind, he said he will want to automate the judiciary so that the judiciary is seamless and very well automated. The second idea was that he said that he will proceed on with the transformation. So let me start with the transformation aspect. Remember that the transformation aspect of the judiciary was a brainchild of William Mutunga. And it was only necessary for the current CJ to pick it up from there and see that what can I do to run with the gains of the issues of transformation. What was transformation about? Transformation was all about ensuring that all courts, at least in this country, are well automated, ensuring that at least every county in this country has a high court. At the time Mutunga was exiting, he had made some tremendous efforts in terms of ensuring that at least we have as many high courts as possible in this country. Maraga did so well in picking up from where Mutunga left. I can assure you right now, every high court in this country, every county in this country has a high court. So that's a very good thing. So he progressed with the issue of transformation and decentralizing the judicial system, because judiciary is actually a decentralized function, if you are to ask me. So let any ordinary Mwananchi in the poorest county or in any region have access to justice, because that's the biggest nightmare we have. So he has gained. I think he has done very well in terms of transformation. Now, the only aspect that probably and then the issue of transformation of the judiciary linked together with the issue of automation, I think he has done very well. Including the time when COVID came into place, we realized that judiciary was now functioning very well under the circumstances. So we are very well informed in terms of what the judiciary is doing, how they have decentralized, how they have transformed, and how they are doing these issues of online hearing cases and judgments. But the only thing that I think Chief Justice Maraga has failed is to cut. Although he has tried well in doing, ensuring that the judiciary is independent, the only aspect that Maraga should have done well is trying to bridge the gap between the National Assembly and the executive. Look at the issue of, for example, appointment of judges. I think the issue of appointment of judges might have not been very well handled by probably Maraga himself or the people he was dealing with, because he has to deal with the executive as much as he can. So that is the biggest mistake probably that Maraga has done, because he has left a judiciary under his tenure without the appointment of those judges that I think should have been appointed to ensure that they help him in terms of achieving his transformation. However, yesterday, if you all remember, yesterday, he appointed new magistrates and promoted some of those magistrates to fill in these gaps. So I think that's the only challenge that Maraga goes home, that he has left an independent institution, but he did not make proper gains in how to work with the National Assembly and work with the executive.
All right, and of course he goes on record there saying that interference from the powers that be did hinder his administration of justice and his mandate there altogether. So following his retirement on the 12th of January, his Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, constitutionally is tipped to become the acting Chief Justice. She is the judiciary's second in command, but there's been quite a silent succession battle with regard to who will take control of the judiciary as we appoint another Chief Justice. Speak to us about the intrigues surrounding the DCJ and her possible acting as Chief Justice.
I think there's an active matter which is going on in court, or there's a decision that has been made, especially touching on the Deputy Chief Justice. So it will be completely unfair for me to go into the merits and demerits of that case. But what I can only say is that any institution that is going through transformation, any institution that is going through change of guard, there are always dynamics in terms of who takes over. What the law says is what you are saying, that the current Deputy Chief Justice should actually take over in terms of an acting capacity until that position has been filled. Remember, filling or recruiting a new justice can administratively take almost 6 months to do that. So for the institution to continue being in one unit and going on, then ideally the current Deputy Chief Justice is supposed to take over and steer the organization for the next probably 6 months or up until they recruit the next Chief Justice. Right. She, of course, has the capacity and capabilities at the time to apply to become a CJ. But then dynamics might arise as to whether the cases that are in court that she's facing, because there's something hanging over her, whether that can be a bar to her to be in an acting position. If that becomes then a bar, then we can see therefore that the Judicial Service Commission will pick any of the judges who is senior most in the Supreme Court to act on behalf of that position.
All right. Many thanks for your time. Advocate Kakai Kissinger giving us his thoughts on the Maraga legacy and the succession battle for the control of the Supreme Court. Many thanks for your time. And that conversation brings us to a close on today's edition of News Desk. For viewers watching us on our KTN home channel, many thanks for watching. My name is Michelle Ngele of the More news coming up on News Desk exclusively on KTN News. Good afternoon.